Hey everybody, it's Tuesday night. You know what that means? It means it's another episode of the Dynasty Pros Devy Show. Um, Tonight we're going to kind of talk about this past weekend's happening, some risers and fallers, some performances that really caught our eye. Um, Got Justin Taylor, SC Romero, and Andy Pham with me. All that will be coming up here next. Guys, how y'all doing tonight?
Good
Good
beer.
man.
Good.
Sorry.
Well, we got a few things to talk about here tonight. Let's go ahead and dive into it. There were a couple of performances that it just really stuck out to me at least. I know you guys have some thoughts also, but kind of a big thing was Jordan Hudson kind of showed up on Saturday. Had over 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. We'd been kind of looking for that type of breakout performance from him, and it looked like it happened for him.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's something you definitely expected him to do. And I think having this was his best game of the season by far. And it just showed he is a valuable piece in that offense, and they just need to try to get him the ball a little bit more. I think he finessed his route running a little bit better, and it's something that you want to see more of moving forward because it definitely helps the team.
Yeah, I really like seeing the chemistry evolve between him and Preston Stone. Both are big time talents, and I think both have NFL futures. And I really want to see those guys start connecting more and more often.
Yeah, when he transferred in late, it was always next year. So whatever you see now, it's just pretty much extra. So this sets him up for next year, which is what we all expected for is next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Another couple guys. We'd been waiting on these guys for a while, especially Gavin Sawchuk. But Gavin Sawchuk and got Nick Anderson, the wide receiver over there at Oklahoma. Both of them really had good games over the weekend. Helped Oklahoma get past UCF. Nick Anderson showed up in a big way also, so that was real nice to see. Freshman, big body wide receiver. And then Gavin Sawchuk, we were kind of expecting to see him a little bit last year. Didn't really get much out of him. And then early on this year, haven't really seen a whole lot up until this past weekend.
Yeah, from the freshmen, I mean, both are some speedy athletes, and they both have some good vision, and I think they both put that on show this week. You definitely love to see towards this end of the season. It's nice to see we're seeing a lot more freshmen get involved that we didn't really see at the beginning of the season. So it's nice for Oklahoma fans or any team that has that freshman that you've been waiting for to say, okay, look, this is what I expected, or it's even better, and I think we got a little showcase of Gavin and Nick this week. And, Oklahoma in general has a lot of things to be excited about. They have a good football program on their hands. If these two guys for the next couple of years will help lead their team to maybe a playoff spot, we'll see.
And they also have a good upcoming recruiting class too. They got some a couple of good receivers coming in, and a good running back in Taylor Tatum.
Yep. Next up, we got a couple running backs wanting to talk about here. Blake Watson just continues to do his thing for Memphis. Continues to catch balls out of the backfield and be really explosive while doing it. Just another one of those Memphis type of running backs that they like to put in the NFL. I actually see him. I've been saying it for a while. I think he's an NFL running back. Just kind of one of those kind of prototypical Memphis backs that they put in the league.
Speaking of Memphis backs, I mean, if we're talking NFL, hopefully you picked up Darrell Henderson, right? He's someone that came out and he just has that longevity in the league, right? Like I don't necessarily see him as an every down starter, but he's definitely someone that could go in the league and just kind of be someone that a smart player for your team. He needed a bounce back game last week. He only had 13 yards, I think. So having this bounce back game to showcase, look, it was just a bad week. Everybody has it. He came out and had 125 yards and a TD. Plus, he got 21 carries. So it is something you'd love to see. And Memphis, I know a guy I'm in the league with. His name's the Billy Goat in all my leagues, but he's a huge Memphis fan, and he always chooses the running backs late because he knows there's value in them. They know how to develop those running backs, and they know how to make them pro ready. And Blake Watson could very well be the next one in a good line of running backs that made it to the NFL.
I really like his hands. I think that's where he's going to make his impact early on, is with like a third down role.
Yeah, he actually reminds me a lot of a younger Jerick McKinnon. Just that type of skill set. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, yeah, I like that. That's a good comparison there.
Gotcha. Another couple running backs here, Bucky Irving and Jordan James out of Oregon. Both play real complementary football to each other. Bucky Irving looks like he's really putting a lot of people on notice lately. Real explosive, good vision, kind of slider frame. But I mean, I was just talking about Blake Watson, and Bucky Irving kind of just seems like he's kind of that same type of dude,
Yeah, they seem like similar players to me. I like Bucky. It's like they always get these athletic running backs at Oregon, and just you're always waiting for one of these guys to break out in the NFL. You always see just the DeAnthony Thomases. You get the guys that just athletic freaks, and you're just hoping that one of these guys hits and busts out in the NFL. Some of these smaller backs have played a little bit better lately as the NFL's gone a little bit smaller at wide receiver and running back in some areas. So maybe Bucky Irvin can be one of those guys that bucks that trend and ends up finding a good spot in an NFL team. I like him. I mean, he's obviously a great college player. I mean, he is awesome in that Oregon offense. But I'm really, Devy wise, because can he get over that 200 pounds, or is he going to be one of those guys that are more in that 190 to 195 range? But he's shown to be explosive, and they've used him in the passing game, they've used him in the screen game. So he's a guy that just makes plays.
Yeah, they're both good backs. They both eat when they get the opportunity, right? And it's in Oregon, you hardly see just that one focal back. They always have just a committee of backs there, and this is just the newest addition, right? Next year, it's going to be Jordan James and Dante, right? So you're just going to continue to see that. So I'm just curious on – I really haven't seen between Bucky and James when they get the same amount of work, like who really takes it to the next level. I think they're both neck and neck there. So I want to see that when they're both getting 15-plus carries, who's going to actually – expedite it and be even more than just, okay, we both put up 100 yards. Like, who's going to do that next level thing? I haven't really seen that from both of them. Both some good backs, but I think they're more committee back. No one has really showed me to say, hey, I'm an every down back, or I can be the focal point of a team. I think they need those breathers to come in and out to be the explosiveness that they have.
All right, a couple guys that I've been high on for a long time, and I think they're pretty much identical. Braylon Allen and Caden Fegan. They squared off against each other this past weekend. Braylon Allen, continues to do Braylon Allen things, just pounds away. Had like 145 yards.
Yeah.
And then Caden Fegan had right close to 100. Both caught a couple balls out of the backfield. I think they're really, really identical type of running back. Same build, same frame, same running style. Both patient runners. They kind of wait for the hole to develop, and then they hit the hole. Big bruising kind of backs also. I think Caden Fegan is basically Braylon Allen 2.0. What do you guys think?
I agree with you 100%. He's not going to have the overall season that Braylon Allen had as a true freshman. But, I mean, I talked about this a couple weeks ago on the show. Caden Fegan is from a 1A school, like legit a 1A small school in Illinois. The fact that he is able to do this as a true freshman for them is amazing to me. I mean, this guy, the jump up in competition is huge. And the fact that he is stepping right in as a true freshman and playing well, not only playing, but playing well. With a bunch of guys that were supposed to start in front of him, and he's injuries and a few other things have kind of moved him up the depth chart. But now he's gotten his chance, and he's proven he should be in there. I think your comp is right on. I think he's a Brandon Allen type guy. When they recruited him, I said this is an old school Brett Bielema, Wisconsin style running back, big guy, physical. He's got good speed. He was recruited by most people as an athlete. He just played everywhere on the field in high school. So they weren't sure if he was going to be a linebacker, running back, strong safety. I mean, they kind of talked about putting him everywhere. So far, they've needed him at running back, and he, to me, has looked great. It's not like Illinois is, burning everybody up through the air. I mean, Luke Altmaier's had some decent games. I mean, he threw for just right at 100 yards, and yet Fegan was able still to put up about 100 himself in a game that Illinois blew at the end. Braylon Allen just kept getting better as that game ran along. He's just one of those guys. I think he's just a bruiser. He's a guy that's going to be one of those guys that you don't have to worry about he has to get off the quick start. You just keep giving that guy the ball, and he's going to make some things happen. But I think they're very similar type of players. Like I said, Fegan reminds me of those old school, all those pro guys that went through Wisconsin when Brett Bielema was at Wisconsin. Now, obviously, the head coach at University of Illinois. But man, what he is doing as a true freshman to me, as a guy that was like mostly a 2-star recruit most of his career, I'm real impressed.
Braylon recently moved to my RB1, and I know he's been your RB1 for some time now, Tommy. But really, one thing at any level is showing up, right? And Raheem Sanders and Trevion Henderson just haven't done that. So it's a concern. I still think they're two valuable prospects that will get drafted, day 2 at the latest. But Braylon Allen, I mean, just showing up, every game, being an all-around back, being able to catch it, being able to run up the middle, very agile, just something you want to see. And I think that's something that your NFL teams are going to take notice to, and he may be the first running back off the board. I think a lot before the season it was Raheem Sanders, at least to me, where I think Raheem was going to go early second or something like that. Where now I can see Braylon being that guy that just NFL scouts see their tape and they're like, wow, look at him day in day out. He was coming out to play. He wasn't injured. He didn't sit or he didn't have a bad game. He was just showing up. Yeah, it was even when losing the name, was it Lucy, the other running back that they had that got injured?
Lucy, yeah.
Yeah, so he came back and he was still being good when there was another back involved, and now it's just showing without him on the field. It's like, okay, wow, this is a top-rated running back that we need to take notice of.
Yeah, with these running backs, it pretty much depends on like what profile you like. If you like the bigger bruisers like these two, or like the lighter footed ones. For me, I haven't really moved Braylon Allen up. I'm still kind of leery on him. He's right now my RB4, so that's where I have him. But they both played well.
Yeah, I'm very excited about both of them. Another running back that we've gotten increasingly excited about, Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State. Just been killing it lately. Looks like the best player on the field whenever they're playing. It doesn't matter who they're playing against. He looks like the best player out there.
Yeah, my weekly threads, my Tuesday or my Monday thread is always running back. And when Ollie Gordon got over, I think it was like over 15 carries a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when he first had his first 100-yard game of this season, I was like, look what happens when you feed him. This is a guy you need to feed. He can do well with that volume. Then what they do, they fed him again, another 100-yard game. What they do, another 100-yard game. And this week he exploded for over 200 yards. And it's just like, wow, look at this. And it's really something that you saw it was coming. If you watched his game over these past couple of weeks, he's someone that he has that great vision you see, but he's also strong. He keeps his feet moving, and he just makes the right cuts to adjust and to make the play. I mean, he's something phenomenal. And this 2025 class in whole, whether it be the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, the running backs, it's a lot tighter than I saw it as a freshman, right? I think it's a lot more guys are like, okay, now we're actually seeing them get more playing time. We're actually seeing what they can do, what they're capable of. And, Singleton, to me, at the beginning, is like he's the clear-cut one. And now I'm like, man, he's not really running away with it. And Ollie Gordon's a big part of that because as he gets that volume, he just continues to impress.
I think Ollie Gordon right now is doing great production for CFF purposes. As far as Devy, I still want to see more from that. So I'm still a little hesitant on him as far as what his Devy potential really is as of this moment.
That's fair. Next up, we want to talk about the North Carolina Weapons. Obviously, we know who Drake May is, but Amarian Hampton, the running back, and Tez Walker, wide receiver, they both really have been putting up big time numbers. Let me first start by talking about Amarian Hampton. He seems like a who was like kind of like a remember back in the day whenever Oregon had their kind of thunder and lightning when they had Jonathan Stewart and kind of blanking on the other one's name, but he kind of reminds me of Jonathan Stewart quite a bit. Not he's not overly fast, but he's fast enough. Good runner in between the tackles. Kind of just seems like that type of Jonathan Stewart type of running back to me.
I like that comp. I think when him and Petaway came out, that's exactly how I compared them, was the Thunder and Lightning form. And really, Petaway's just not been on the field at all. So, I mean, it's been the Omar and Hampton show, and he's showed he can be their running back. We have seen North Carolina before run a 1-2 punch, and we really just see more Omar and Hampton and him being a workhorse back for them.
Yeah.
I'm just really excited about Tess Walker. With him not being able to play the first few games and then finally getting to showcase everything, he's doing everything that he can to prove that he should be a day 2 pick.
Yes, definitely.
It's sad, right, that he's doing great things, and it's unfortunate that the NCAA did whatever they did to make him ineligible, because imagine seeing this all season. The way he's playing right now, if he was doing this all season, we could be talking about him in that first round, right? Just because of how dominant he is playing. So it's just a bad thing that, whatever happened there, happened, but I am glad to see him on the field because it's what we expected, when he got there.
Yeah. I mean, this draft class, potential draft class at wide receiver, you have several guys who could potentially come back, obviously, but this potential draft class at wide receiver is pretty loaded. I've got 15 guys that I really, really like, that could go, top 4 rounds.
Yeah, outside of obviously you have these guys in Devy, you're already on your team in a C2C league, but man, I am out there trying to acquire a bunch of second round picks for next year because I am just excited about all the wideouts that are going to drop to the second round in rookie drafts. Mm-hmm. I think there's a ton of guys that could be really good, especially depending on landing spot in the NFL. I want as many seconds or early thirds as I can get to see if a guy drafts me, because I just think there's going to be a load of talent on that wide receiver side this year. And so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. JT, you kind of mentioned somebody kind of off air. You really liked Donovan Smith, Houston quarterback. Go and talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, so Don Smith, obviously a guy transferred to Houston from Texas. He was a big guy. I mean, great size, 6'5", 240, dude out of Vegas. The question was, he went to Houston. Everybody's like, okay, are they gonna open it up? Let him cook. He didn't play real great to start the year. Not gonna lie. I mean, he got off to a little bit of a rough start the first couple games, but man, he really seems like he's got things going. And then he showed out against Texas. They got down early. They looked like they were in trouble. It looked like Houston was going to get run out of the building, and he kept them in it the whole game against a really good Texas defense. He ended up with right at 70% completion, 378 yards, 8 a pass, 3 touchdowns, the 1 pick. He's a guy that has some athleticism, can move. He's shown he can run. After the really rough start, again, UTSA, Rice, TCU, not the defense they were at the beginning of the year. He looked terrible in that TCU game. I mean, terrible in that game. And then all of a sudden he started putting together the last 4 or 5 weeks. And now he's been over 70% completion percentage last 4 games. He's averaging right around 300 yards a game. He had interception problems at the beginning of the year, 3 picks in his first 3 games. Against Texas was his first pick in 4 weeks. At that point, he had been 12 touchdowns, 1 interception last 4 games. This is a guy that's starting to get it together. He's a guy that I think, has a ton of ability, ton of talent. Can he keep climbing up that chart? Can he keep proving himself? I was just really impressed with the way he showed up against Texas, especially when they got down early and the pressure was on him and the offense to get him back in the game. The way he handled it, I thought was real special. And now he's a guy that, we've always kind of looked at him from the outside saying, maybe. He's a guy I want to start keeping an eye on more. He's got a chance to work his way up here a little bit. Obviously, Devy circles, he's still on the fringes big time, but he's a guy that with the size and effort, he's got a chance. He's got a chance to make something happen. And I just thought he's looked really, really good the last couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll mention him here in a little bit because we're going to touch on the 2025 quarterbacks. But I definitely agree with you. 2025 class kind of wide open at this point. So we'll definitely keep an eye on him there. Speaking of quarterbacks, let's kind of jump into some risers. I'm really liking Dylan Gabriel a lot lately. Kind of drawing those Tua comps a little bit. I don't think he's quite the quarterback Tua is, obviously, but I do think he has a certain kind of it factor to him. Not a big guy, lefty quarterback, but he just seems to make all the right plays. I'm really interested to see what the draft process looks like for him.
Yeah, I was really surprised. Like when he came over from UCF and transferred in, I thought, okay, he was real good at UCF. Can he be that successful at Oklahoma? That was the question. I kind of thought he was a holdover quarterback. I'm like, hey, they're going to get him. They're going to let him play a little bit until one of these stud, young recruits they get is ready to go. He's been much better than I thought he would be, to be honest, especially this year. I was not expecting a lot out of him, especially on the Devy circles. I didn't think. I was like, hey, this guy's CFF. Maybe he'll get some points. But I was like, I don't know, Devy, NFL, I don't know if they'll like this guy. He has been really good this year. I still don't know what that looks like Devy-wise for NFL, but he's definitely got his name. He's definitely going to get a chance now. I think he's in there. Now, where does that end? I don't know. Does that matter where Oklahoma goes the rest of the year? If Oklahoma can figure out a way in to the playoffs, does that raise his stock? If he plays really well against, say like a Michigan or a Georgia, maybe it does. I'm just not sure. I think you're right. Like left hand, Tua, all that makes more sense. He's a smaller guy. Obviously, Tua had way higher expectations, way bigger prospect coming out. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see how he tests once we get into the NFL draft process, how he throws, how his pro day goes, all that kind of stuff. He's been honestly, for me, he's been a lot better than I thought he would be. I thought he was a transfer holdover quarterback until they could get one of the young guys ready. So he's been better than I thought.
Yeah. Another guy that I'm wanting us to talk about is Cam Ward. I've been high on him ever since last season. Last season, I was talking him up big time, and then he kind of disappointed a little bit. But this year, he's come out and he's been killing it. He looks like a legitimate pro prospect now. Big arm, mobile, can hit guys on the move. I actually really like what I've seen out of him. People were high on KJ Jefferson. I think they have similar type of builds. I just think I think Cam Ward's a lot better than what KJ Jefferson is, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you hit all the fine points with him, and he throws with precision, right? He can throw on the money. He can make those NFL throws that you want to see, and he's doing it pretty well in the Pac-12. That you have that aired out type of offense, and he doesn't have the weapons your Caleb Williams has or your Bo Nix, but he's still making it happen, and you definitely love to see that. I mean, he still has some things he definitely needs to work on, but I think he's a quarterback that especially come combine and pro days, he can showcase that arm strength even more, and that's going to draw a lot of people watching him, because he's someone that has that cannon to him.
Yep.
I mean, I was impressed about how he bounced back against Oregon. I mean, he played not a great game against Arizona. They got worked against Arizona. As everybody started getting on the Wazoo bandwagon, and everybody's like, "Hey, maybe they got something here." He did not look great in that game. They got worked, but the fact that he came out against what we've seen is a pretty solid Oregon defense for how much the points are getting put up in the Pac-12. The fact that he came back and kept him in that game and put up nice numbers, I thought was a nice bounce back for him. He could have kind of melted down and be like, "Oh, here we go." But I think that is going to make a difference. I think people are going to go back and they look at his film. They're going to look at the Oregon game. They're like, how did he perform in that game? And he 438 yards, a TD. They got down early, but he kept them in it. So I actually was really impressed with the bounce back.
Yeah. This guy, this next guy we're going to talk about, I know Andy's a big fan of him. Garrett Nussmeier. He's risen, I've seen, I've seen his arm. I've seen him play a little bit. He came in this past weekend in, kind of relief of Jaden Daniels. And I've been highly critical of Jaden Daniels, maybe a little bit too much so. But I think Nussmeier is a better quarterback. I think Jaden Daniels is playing well over his head right now, honestly. But I can't wait until next season whenever we get to see Garrett Nussmeier actually take control of that offense and do what we think he can do. I think he can be a kind of a top end of kind of a higher echelon 2025 quarterback prospect. I'll
jump in real quick before I let Andy, give us the business on Nussmeier. But Jalen Daniels, I mean, it's crazy because it's frustrating. You're like, look in the stats, you're looking at what he's doing, and you still watch him, and you're like, I know he's playing good football. I know he's putting up great stats, but you're like, Devy West, I just don't see it for the NFL. I just don't see it with him. And Nussmeier, you're like, he has an NFL build, an NFL prospect. He has an NFL, like, you looking at it, you're like, oh my gosh, if this guy was in there, what would they be doing with this guy in there? And so that's why I think is just like the so frustrating thing. And I want to throw it in because I know Andy's going to give us the business on this. But I mean, he's putting up some unreal numbers with great players around him, and he just, to me, he's a good college quarterback, but good is all he is. He's a good college quarterback. And so if you get a real stud in there, man, if you're looking at what Jalen Daniels is doing, what is the next guy going to do that actually is a legit NFL quarterback? I'll give Andy the floor.
Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump in. We're going to skip past Andy. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Andy. Go ahead and tell us go ahead and talk about Garrett Nussmeier. We know you want to.
Yeah, he's been my QB1 since before the season start for the 25 class. He is quick at processing defenses, has a really good arm. He throws his receivers open. So even though LSU is going to lose a lot of talent next year, I think he's gonna prop up those young receivers next year. And so I don't have any concerns about him for next year. I think they're going to do great. And yeah, it's just a matter of a what if. What if they would have started him week 0 against Florida State? They probably would have won that game. And it's just a lost season. So I'm really excited for him next year and see what he does. But yeah, he does all the things you want for an NFL quarterback. He has a really good arm, processes defense really fast, and he throws his receivers open, which you don't see a lot in college nowadays.
I think one thing, with Daniels, if he didn't have Neighbors or Thomas Jr., LSU offense would be a mess, right? Like, I think it's more they make him look great, or if you put Nesmeyer and then he doesn't have him, which we'll see next year, then it's like, okay, wow, this is a quarterback that can actually take control and be the leader, not someone that needs his wide receivers to be great, because as Andy mentioned, he can make them feel great by finding that open spot for them to get to.
Yeah, I'm a big Walker Howard fan. I like Walker Howard, and the fact that he immediately transferred out meant a lot to me. I was like, he saw Nussmeier and was like, I'm not beating this guy out. I mean, he could see it. He's like, this guy, I'm not beating him out. I'm going to be sitting right in the pint the next couple of years. And the fact that so he transferred to Ole Miss, to me, that said a lot because I think he's a really good quarterback. I think he has a chance to be really good at Ole Miss if he can, end up winning the job behind Jackson Dart in the future. But just the fact that Nussmeier was there and he was like, nah, like that meant something. I mean, he transferred immediately. He knew he wasn't going to get in there.
Yep. Now, guys, I kind of want to get into some fallers here. Got a couple of them that I'm wanting to kind of throw out there, and we can discuss them. First off, I want to start with KJ Jefferson. I mentioned him earlier. People were really high on him coming into this season. I just don't see much of anything out of him, honestly. Whenever you have a comparable quarterback like Cam Ward, similar body styles. I just look at Cam Ward and I'm like, he's so much better than what KJ Jefferson is. Now, maybe, I mean, you're able to say that, well, maybe it's offensive scheme, it's Sam Pittman, it's, lack of talent around him, whatever. Cam Ward doesn't have a whole lot of talent around him either, and he's putting up big time numbers. So, I just think somebody like Cam Ward is more of has more potential than what KJ Jefferson has.
Personally, I'd rather have Cam Ward or Donovan Smith at this point. Donovan Smith has showed me a whole lot more than KJ Jefferson has, and you can't tell me they got more talent at Houston. I mean, they've got some solid players, but you can't tell me they got more talent than Arkansas does.
No,
so
they got a couple stud receivers there.
They got some good ones there, and they're making them look good, and they're helping them out. But KJ Jefferson, I mean, without the running game there with Sanders, that Arkansas offense has just looked brutal all year. I'm not going to 100% put it on Jefferson because, I mean, that if anybody watched that Mississippi Arkansas game this weekend, hats off to you. That game was awful. I can't believe you stayed and watched that whole game. It was terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. But Jefferson, he's got that potential, but man, I don't know if I see it. I don't know if they can make him in. He can make himself into an NFL starter. I don't see it happening.
I really don't either.
I think it just goes to show how big of a factor Raheem Sanders is to that offense, right? Because last year we did see him on the field with KJ, and we didn't see him struggle as much, but he had that opportunity to release the pressure off of him by giving the rock to Raheem Sanders there, and then he came in, and it's just like, wait a second, Sanders not on the field. If they need to put that pressure just solely on KJ Jefferson, he does fold, and it just doesn't look pretty for him. And that's something in the quarterback. Out of all the positions, you need the quarterback to be able to stand alone, and I just don't think he can do it.
Yeah, I was someone that was pretty high on him. So the previous years that he was there, he would always protect the ball, wouldn't turn it over, and he would make the plays when he was needing to, and he was helped with Rocket Sanders being there. And this year the wheels just fell off. Like, he is not reading defenses at all. He's trying to do too much, and it's just all blew up in his face. And yeah, any little potential he had, it went out the window this year.
Right. Another guy that I'm wanting to throw out there, I'm not ready to necessarily say I was wrong about him because I still think that he has a ton of potential, and I think the NFL will see that also. Just raw tools. Joe Milton. A lot of people had a lot of high expectations for him. I was included in that. You look at that Tennessee offense and what Hendon Hooker did, and then you watch the Orange Bowl from last year against Clemson, and you're like, okay, well, Joe Milton's just going to step right in, and he's going to be fine. He's going to be the guy. he's got all the tools. And then you look at somebody like Anthony Richardson, who was drafted top 5, very similar type of players, very similar size, both big time arms, both mobile. And then Joe comes out so far this year and just whether it's wide receivers dropping the balls, because the wide receivers have dropped a lot of passes for him. But he just hasn't he hasn't been that it guy, Now, again, come pro day, come combine, when GMs and scouts see his raw tools, they're going to fall in love with him the way kind of the way that they did with Anthony Richardson. I don't think anybody thought Anthony Richardson was a top 5 pick this time last year either. But I want to see more of first half against Alabama Joe Milton and less second half against Alabama Joe Milton. First half he was killing them, carving them up, running. He's actually started running the ball, quite a bit more lately, which is nice. But first half he was carving Alabama up, and then the second half, again, whether it was play calling, whatever you want to say it was, they just didn't do the same type of things that put them up, by 2 scores at halftime. Then they ended up, blowing that game and losing. Again, I don't know if that was I don't necessarily put that on Joe Milton. I kind of put that on a lot of play calling and halftime adjustments. I just think Joe kind of needs to show a little bit more. So I've got him as a little bit of a faller right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely, been saying he's a combine kind of quarterback where he definitely needs that to showcase what he can do. And, I've been mentioning on the Twitter threads as well that, you can't watch him play and say it's on him because the wide receivers are just not good right now. Like, none of them are on my Devy radar outside of Nathan Leacock, and he's not even on the field. He's a freshman for the team. So it's like it's hard when you see quarterbacks that have that arm strength that can put it on the money and you see the plays. It's right. Like the wide receiver has their hands, right out front. He puts it right in their hands and they just drop it, and it's like, I see that a lot of times with him. And it's unfortunate because for a guy like that, it's like, this was the year that you needed to showcase why you deserve to be in the NFL. And he's going to have to do a lot more, exceed expectations at the pro day and combines to have that relevancy.
Yeah, and even throws he's slightly off on. He's still in the area where wide receivers should be catching the ball. So I mean, I don't put his quote unquote inaccuracy on him. I think a lot of it is wide receivers not making plays.
Give it Tillman or Tillman and Hyatt, and we'll see a different story.
Yeah, exactly.
My thing with him from day one when he was at Michigan is that confidence. Like he would do the same thing at Michigan. Like he would have, a great first half, and then like coming out to the second half, if he would have a drive where he kind of overthrew it or a receiver dropped it, he would be hesitant. He would hold on to the ball for too long. He would think and second guess himself. So I think that's his main thing, is he'll get into a nice rhythm and he looks great. But as soon as something doesn't go his way, everything falls apart for him. And that's what I'm still kind of seeing today. Yeah,
that's fair. Another guy that I'd like to mention here, he was a high 4-star, borderline 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. Big expectations on him. Kyle McCord, coming into this year, you thought, okay, he's just going to step right in and do what CJ Stroud did, what Justin Fields did. He's got big time weapons there with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka and Trevion Henderson, and but he just has not been very good this year. He was a guy who people kind of took some swings on late in Devy drafts this past off season, thinking that if he does do what CJ Stroud did last year, then maybe he comes out and is a bona fide NFL prospect. I just haven't seen much out of him that lends me to think that he's an NFL quarterback.
I'm not completely out on McCord totally yet. Devy wise, obviously he's dropped quite a bit, but I think what we're starting to see a little bit is CJ Stroud was legit. That's what we're starting to see is everybody thinking they're oh, somebody else, all those weapons can just step in and do what CJ Stroud did. It's not the case. CJ Stroud's special. I thought he was special last year. He was my QB1 last year coming out. And I just think that was a lot of expectations to heap on McCord. I'm not totally out on him. I think he's obviously can get another year or two. Yeah, obviously this year he's not going to be a one and done starting quarterback and ready for the NFL. That's been obvious. But man, that first year as a starter, people forget about that. That first year, it takes some time to kind of get your mojo together, figure it out. And year two is a big difference for a guy. It's very rare that a guy comes out in the first year and just absolutely balls out year one. It's just a lot. Even though they have a ton of talent, I think that's what's also killing him. They have a ton of talent around him. So people are like, man, you got all this talent. Why aren't you just unbelievably awesome? So I'm not completely out of McCord. Obviously, I'm not drafting super high in Devy's. Again, he's a fringe guy for me, but I think he has a shot to improve and be better. It's just I think the expectations were probably way too high with what Justin Fields and CJ Stroud did the last couple of years on him. So the expectations, they hurt. Milton, same thing like we just talked about, like a guy that came in high expectations. Hooker just played out of his mind, looked great with great wide receivers last year. You thought your guy could just step in and be that guy right away. Very rarely does that happen where someone just replaces a guy and everything just flows just as well as it did the year before.
You had posed the question earlier. Are we out on the 2025 quarterback class? I don't necessarily think we're completely out on them. You're going to have some guys come back. Riley Leonard's probably coming back. Shador Sanders has been reported that he's going to be coming back also. Drew Aller, I think, is a special talent. You're not going to see that much at Penn State. Me and you were actually talking about this earlier, JT, where we had said that, if you switch Kyle McCord and Drew Aller would look like an absolute, star, and Kyle McCord would barely look like a, college quarterback, at Penn State.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the difference in coaching, in play calling, and in weapons, weapons that surround him. I don't think Drew Aller has a ton of weapons around him. Again, if we switched him and Kyle McCord places and situations, I think Drew Aller would look like a star.
I agree. That's what I was saying. I think he would look a ton of better. As Penn State did, they're just adverse to letting guys open it up. He doesn't have as many weapons around him. It was pretty obvious in that Ohio State Penn State game that he just didn't have a lot of guys he could lean on to get the ball to. I'm still in on Lar. I like him a lot. I think everything is pointing to Shador Sanders coming back. Like he has to. At this point, if he comes back the next year, he has a shot to legit be the 1-1 in my mind. I really think he does. I know me and SC have talked about it. I think Alar is going to be right there with him. Obviously, like guys like Clay Klubnik have started to drop a little bit. I like Donovan Smith. I want to see what SC and Andy kind of think about. I feel like there's going to be a lot of jockeying in this 2025 QB class over the next year or two.
Yeah, because another guy that we had mentioned earlier, Garrett Nussmeier, Andy has him as his QB1. Another guy that I'd like to mention, don't sleep on somebody like Carson Beck. I think Carson Beck could be a big time quarterback prospect in the 2025 class.
Again, another guy, Carson Beck, a guy people expect to come in and just be a Stetson Bennett. He might, he's got more skills than Stetson Bennett. He does, just absolutely does. But that first year in is man, being a first-year quarterback as a starter, I don't care if you play quarterback your whole life, it's a different beast. Getting that year of experience on your belt and going to that next year, I think you could see a completely different Carson Beck next year. I could see him coming out and just absolutely balling, having another year of experience. So I'm really interested to see how this 2025 class goes because I could see some of these guys. Again, Nussmeier. What if Nussmeier gets in there and has like not nobody, but it doesn't have all these just like elite guys and just balls out anyway. And everyone's like, oh, look at it. I mean, wow, this guy lost all this NFL talent and is better than the guy that played before him. So I think there's all kinds of things that could happen in this 2025 class. To me, I think you're going to see some huge swings over the next year and a half.
Well, let's also not forget somebody like Tyler Van Dyke has another year of eligibility. So he's another guy who could come back and be part of that 2025 mix.
Yeah, I mean, I think the guys that are coming out, they're balling out of control, right? And it's like we're paying more notice on them, where the other guys still have that year to get right, still have that year to get the offense. Plus, you may have transfers come in all over the board. Speaking on Shedeur, he's someone that if he stays, well, he's going to go to a depleted Big 12 league division, right? He's going to be in a different conference there, and he's not going to be against, your USCs or even your Oregons or anything like that. So he's going to have the opportunity to showcase his true talent. Plus, this year, you have a lot of the guys that had that COVID year in between. So you have some vets in there that had that extra year to learn about the system, learn about college football, and do some great things. So this 2024 class looks phenomenal, but we do have a lot of guys that could take that next step, whether they transfer out, they get a transfer weapon in, or they just finally say, okay, I now understand this game. This is my third year. This is my year to showcase, hey, my draft eligible year to see, okay, where can I go to these NFL prospects? Because right now, not saying that they're not playing their ass off or doing anything big, but right now it's like I still have a year to get right. I still have a year to communicate with different scouts possibly or just different coaches to work on my skill and to fine-tune it here and there, where you have 2024 guys who are like, this is it. I'm playing with everything on the line. This is, my future. So we will definitely see some strides here and there. Who it's going to be, if it's Shedeur, he's the 101 easily. That's in my book. But other than that, it's definitely fun to watch because in college football with this transfer portal open now, things are changing every offseason, and you love to see it. It's good for the conference. It's good for the NCAA, and it's just as long as they don't pull a Tez Walker and make him ineligible, then it's great to see.
Well, let's also not forget about somebody who may possibly transfer out after this season. Devin Brown, going into last season, coming out of high school, him and it was a debate who's the better quarterback, him or Drew Allar. And Brown has not gotten the opportunity to play. So if he were to transfer out after this season, say to somewhere like Washington, and then, he goes there and puts up big numbers with, Jalen Polk and Jeremy Bernard and, and now all of a sudden he's looking at a guy who could potentially be one of those top quarterbacks in the 25 class.
I think for the 25 first year eligible quarterbacks, what no one's talked about is these guys were, I believe, juniors when the COVID year happened, and a lot of schools shut down. So they lost that year where they could have reps in and live reps. So I think you're seeing that stunted growth that those kids had when they were in high school now, and you're seeing how that drop off is from this 24 class that has the COVID quarterbacks when they were in college and they're older. So that's the one thing where no one's really talked about. So yeah, they all look not polished right now, but they have one more year of that offseason coming up and then get into spring camp and fall camp. I think you're going to see a big rise in a lot of these quarterbacks that don't look good right now just because of that COVID year when they were a junior in high school. Because when you're a junior in high school, you're getting those live reps in, and like those are valuable, and they didn't get them. They got them when they were seniors in high school, and then they got into college. So they missed out on that year. So all these quarterbacks that have, not looked so great, like Drew Allar, Klubnik, Whiteman got hurt, but him, all these quarterbacks, they have that opportunity to make that big jump to make that next year's class look a lot better than how it is now.
I think that's a fantastic point. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're a high school kid. Your junior year is a monster year for you, usually. And you just don't play, or you don't have, or you play a tilted schedule with not very much practice time, as opposed to if you're in college, hey, you still have the facility. You can still go out there, throw the ball, still do some things. I think it's a huge difference. And again, I think like we've talked about before, and I brought it before, we've got these quarterbacks that are looking amazing, but they're in 5-6 of their college careers. They should look amazing. They're 24, 25-year-old kids, or, they're almost, grown men at this point because they've been in college so long where we're forgetting on the other side of that, like Andy just pointed out, the guys that were younger, they actually got stunted because of that. Some of these older guys got helped because they got extra years, extra time. These kids got less time. So I think that's it. That's an absolute excellent point by Andy there.
Yeah. Well, not only are the older quarterbacks more seasoned, but they're also playing with older weapons. Also, where you have a super senior quarterback, you probably also have a super senior wide receiver. So that tends to help out a lot also. Guys, I think that we're kind of coming down towards the end of the show here. Go ahead and let us know where we're able to find you guys, how we're able to connect with you, and what it is you're working on.
Yeah, check me at JT Orange on the X. The Stew with JT Brew is my show on dynastyprosfootball.com. I do college football betting, NFL betting. If you're into hockey, just started a new hockey show that runs usually on Wednesday nights where we talk about anything fancy hockey and betting as well as football. But do all that kind of stuff. I jump on any other show and things I can. If you're into IDP, my rankings are on DLF, and I put out an IDP article, waiver wire pickups, every Wednesday on Fantrax.
Nice. So you find me on X at the PPR show every day except Saturday, doing a different thread. I have a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, IDP thread Sunday through Wednesday, and on Thursday do my rankings all for college football. Friday just drop a little something on content creators, just people I think you should follow. I have my IDP Start NFL article on RPO every Thursday. Have an IDDP article coming out for Dynasty Pros. IDDP as an independent Devy defensive player. So let's get a little deeper into that and talk about those guys. And then here and there, doing some things for league winners on the Devy side as well.
You can find me at Andy_fam1. I have a JJ McCarthy article piece coming out on Thursday on why he should be the quarterback 3. And then Friday, I have a Devy and C2C games preview to watch. And then Monday's recap with Devy stock up, stock down, and new C2C names to watch.
Awesome, guys. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. We'll likely have a show on Thursday. Next Tuesday, we're going to be taking a break because of Halloween. I know a lot of people will be out trick-or-treating with their kids, handing out candy, throughout the neighborhood. So we'll take a break next Tuesday. But we'll likely have another show coming up on Thursday for you, where we will preview the weekend's games. But as far as that goes, that's going to be it for tonight. I'm Tommy Harvey. For Justin Taylor, SC Romero, and Andy Pham. I hope you guys have a blessed day. We'll see you next time.